Hello everyone, welcome back to another video on the Craft of the Draft channel, and in this video we're going to be looking through every Vic Metro player who played in the championships, and we've both given grades for each player between A to C. We've both had different systems of ranking these players in three different categories, and I'll give an example for mine. I've got them in each position, so they're ranked by their position, not all as one big group. So I've got midfielders, and the three categories I got for that are decision making, hurt factor, point of difference. Jonty's got a different system as well, and before I pass to you to give your system, the players who only played one game or bottom ages, we don't have a grade for, as it's probably not fair to rank them just off one game. So we'll just give a general overview of them later. But Jonty, explain your ranking system, and we'll get straight into it.
My ranking system is their draftability. I'm ranking out of 10, their productivity throughout the championships, and then their point of difference. It's worth touching on as well the fact that you've gone with the primary position of each player. Obviously, we know that players sometimes played across multiple positions. Anyway, without further ado, we'll start. Harry Armstrong, and he gets an A+ for me. Yeah, wow, he grew into the carnival after missing that first game. He put the frustration of that to one side, and even on that weekend, he kicked a goal after the siren for Sandy. So amazing. He's shown some real glimpses in game 2, took that big contested mark and kicked a critical goal. And then his third game was really strong with his contested mark and leading patterns, and then the fourth game was a real statement, kicking the 5 goals and relishing the responsibility as that key forward to look for inside 50. So averaging the 3 goals and 5 marks from his games, he was my top player with regards to the ranking.
Yeah, well, I gave him an A. I think it could have been harsh not to give him an A+, and where I ranked him lower was his aerial capability, but it's not because he wasn't good. It's just in that Metro, especially in that country game, a lot of his marks were quite easy for him. He found himself in a lot of uncontested positions.
Did take that big mark up the line.
Yeah, but that's not his own fault. It was just him getting in good positions. He probably could be an A+, to be honest. His productivity was amazing, wasn't he? Really built in, and it was a lot of second effort things he did as well, especially against WA, those pressure acts he had. So a really good champ. He's cemented himself now as one of the top key forwards.
Certainly has. Levi Ashcraft next up. I've given him an A. Yeah, that typical ball-winning nous and intelligence around the footy was what really stood out. His productivity perhaps slightly lower, but that's by Levi Ashcraft standards, and that's probably a victim of the high bar that he sets. But yeah, his decision-making was typically trustworthy, averaging 25 disposals and a goal. Interesting
to rank someone like Ashcraft too. You know what you're going to get, and even when he plays a good game, you're like, yep. Cool, because that's what you expect from him. I still think he's the best player in this draft crop in terms of what he provides across 4 quarters. His intensity was elite and is an A+ for me.
Very good. Adrian Cole next up, and I gave him a C+. He played the last 3 games of the championships, particularly the first and third game that he played, so the second and fourth of the championships. He was really hard to beat one-on-one, and we know the point of difference that he's got is that athleticism and that ability to really fly and get high up the ground. Probably didn't show it as much as he would have liked, which is why I kept him at a C+, and didn't get the offensive output perhaps from him either.
Yeah, I had him as a B+. I thought he played his role extremely well as a lockdown defender. It's probably that, and I don't think he was probably able to show enough on where he needed to improve in terms of that ground level, and that when a forward gets separation, can he come back? I don't really think there were enough moments to show he's improved on that, to be honest. But when in his role, I thought he still executed it quite well. Is he one of the top key defenders? He's probably still just building on that a little bit more, but when you're in a team like Sandy for the back end of the year, you've got every chance to really show what you're capable of. But I thought it was a decent champs. It was a B+, a B maybe, but I had him as a B+.
Jesse Detoli next up, I gave him a B+. I thought he was absolutely sensational. His WA game, he was so electrifying off half forward and showed his bag of tricks, and yeah, his marking capacity throughout the whole championships is really good. He stands at 179 centimetres, but plays a little bit taller than that. And then to go to the wing in the last game, which is a very different role, and then win 7 intercept possessions and get back defensively and help out was really good, and was a big part of them when they attacked Vic Metro against Vic Country, so B+.
He's just a B for me. I think I expect quite a lot of Jesse Detoli because I know how flashy he can be, and that the craftiness he has inside forward 50 is elite. His ability to get into good pockets of space with defenders completely missing him is elite, and I do agree with his positional change. He was able to adapt to that really well. So maybe it's a harsh result to get a B, but it still showed some great glimpses on his behalf.
A B minus for Josh Dolan for me, and he ranked among the highest across the three teams that I ranked for point of difference, because he plays a really specialist role as that running high half forward, and showed he was able to do it. And there were times where he went a quarter or even longer without getting much of the footy, but still the running patterns were really important, and he never really looked like he was worrying about the numbers or the occasion, and I really liked what he was able to do to play that role nicely, and to finish with 5 goals across the champs, given how high he was playing, was quite impressive. And the 11 score involvements against WA spoke to, a pretty good outing as well. So, a B minus, maybe a little bit harsh, but that's where he sits for me.
Well, I have him as a C. I maybe that was just because of his impact in most games. Yes, he hit the scoreboard, but he just wasn't able to get his hands on the footy like he usually can, and it felt like the Metro was lacking that type of player at times in transition. I guess because a lot of the focus was on that midfield group and getting it out of the centre stoppage, he just wasn't involved as much. Doesn't speak to how talented he is, that championships, but your perspective kind of makes me rethink on the spot of like, wow, was I a bit too harsh on him? But he's a C, but it's a grade that doesn't really speak for what he is capable of.
Luca Grego next up. What a star he is. So, there's lots of personalities on the Vic Metro team, and I think a lot of players who really want to assert themselves, and, maybe at times there were players that tried too hard to express themselves and got a little bit selfish, but Luca Grego certainly wasn't one of them. He was rarely beaten one-on-one. His pressure was absolutely excellent. He got some intercept possessions, 5 of them in Game 4, and was a real steady presence for them back there, and always went at above 90% efficiency. And it wasn't that he went for the easy kick. He did look to take it on through the corridor several times throughout the championships, and I think he's really draftable with how balanced he is as a player, and the ability to play a different role to what he did at Western and still shine in it.
With that efficiency numbers, I'll give him a B for his. My thing with Grego is just his point of difference. I don't know where he compares or kind of stands up compared to. I mean, if it's not other midfielders, it's those halfbacks. He's got that efficiency and he's super productive. I just don't know where he sits at the next level. That's kind of just where I question him at the moment, because I think he's a great player at this level. I'd love to see him play VFL at the end of the year and see where he slots in there. I think that would be a good opportunity for him, because I don't know, I think he needs that next test just to show what he's capable of at the next level, and I'll give him a B.
Tom Gross, a hard one to rank for me. I felt like his championships was a tale of two halves. The first half was probably one of those players like I talk about with Grego, where he maybe tried too hard to express himself, and it led to some poor decision-making, particularly in the front half. And then the last 2 games, he seemed to really settle and was influential, particularly against South Australia, gaining the 435 metres. When he went into the midfield in the third quarter of that game, he was absolutely outstanding. But also played on the wing, played off half forward, showed his versatility. So that point of difference with the versatility and the toughness was quite electric. And he ranked highly in that category. He's very draftable, B+.
Well, I have him as a B+ as well, and it would have been worse. I'm glad he did fix up his. It was selfishness at times early in the piece in the championships, but I'm glad he really showed his weapons. He went back to what he's good at. He's a workhorse up and down the ground. He's productive, he's efficient, and he got back to that. He hit the scoreboard in the back end of the champs. And when he really sizes up his options, he becomes such a better player, and it was better for him in the end as well. And he ends up with a B+. And glad he fixed up probably a poorer start to the champs and moved along pretty well.
Lenny Hoffman was noteworthy at times with his intercepting and decision-making. He knew when to peel off, particularly in Game 2. I thought he showed that. He took 6 marks against South Australia, averaged the 9 disposals and 4 marks. Probably would have liked to have seen a little bit more of him consistently finish quietly. He gets a C+ for me.
Yeah, I've got him at a B, and I can agree probably at times it felt like his impact was a little quieter and wasn't able to really make an impact defensively, but it was still moments he had where he was able to impact transition and put his body on the line and go up for a few good marks and show his intercepting capability. I think he's still quite raw. That's the way it feels when he plays, there's still a lot of development left. So he got a B for me.
B- is Damon Hollow's ranking for me. I was really disappointed he missed the second game because he started like a house on fire with his versatility that he showed on the wing. He showed great energy, finishing with the 21 touches, a goal and 529 metres gained. So, that speed and energy that he brought was really good. And then in the last 2 games, he just never really quite reached those heights again and was a bit quieter, playing in some different positions. So a B-.
I gave him a B, but he was the only player, maybe unfairly, that I was really basing off potential at the next level, and that was based off the first game that I was really impressed with him. And I think to show that versatility, almost wish he got played there a little more. So that's why I gave him a B, but your grade is probably a better reflection of his championships.
Yep. Lucas Impey is the next one. He gets a C for me, maybe a little bit harsh. He played the 3 games and he showed his real aggressiveness in moments in game 1 at ground level. And then in game 4, I thought, he comfortably won the ruck battle, and that was really crucial for Vic Metro to win the game, and took a big contested mark late in the game as well. But probably in terms of consistency across the champs and really asserting himself on the game as a ruck, it's probably where he fell a little bit short. So, yeah, he did win some contested footy, but yeah, sort of C+ is where he sits for me.
Yeah, it was at the lower end of a B for me, and I quite agree. I guess being a 19-year-old, you do have to show a real point of difference in these champs, whether he was able to kind of sit on the fence, but it was still quite productive.
Yep. Zach Johnson next up, he gets a C for me. He missed the first game and played the last 3 in the back line, and he never really looked like he quite got going. We know he can be a real creative distributor for the Northern Knights, and we know he's played in the midfield for the Northern Knights as well as off half-back. But yeah, he did try to make things happen at times, and he was solid without probably having the X factor, averaging 14 disposals.
Yeah, he was a B-, similar to Christian Murray, as we'll touch on. With the depth of that midfield, there was not really a spot for Zach Johnson to go in there and showcase his midfield weapons, but I still thought he was productive at times. It wasn't like he didn't play his role at all. He was still there and fit right back into that role, but it was just his ability to get his hands on the footy was definitely decreased a lot, compared to what he's used to at Northern.
Isaac Kako next up. Yeah, wow. A+ for me pretty comfortably. I think if you talk about establishing yourself, he certainly did that with his second and third games in particular, taking his moments, setting players up. He's so clean. He's got quick hands, 12 score involvements in the third game, kicked 3 goals in the last game. So, yeah, he didn't really leave any stone unturned, had so many of those special moments that'll be on his highlight reel when he gets drafted in November.
I guess a lot of the questions with a small forward as well is how unselfish can they be as well in their movement up the ground, and he is he's so unselfish. The way he lowers his eyes, he was as good inside 50 as he was outside of it when he was lowering his eyes. So yeah, it was an easy A+. And like we said with Barry in our country video, there's a reason they're 2 of the best small forwards in the country.
You touched on it with Zach Johnson, and I'm going to say that Nash King was the one who was hurt most by being pushed out of the Vic Metro midfield. He played in defence, and yeah, I think that really hurt him. I would have loved to have seen him go in as that real terrier-like extractor that he plays at Calder. His game against South Australia was probably his best, where he had 7 intercept touches, and he did have a couple of nice moments, but yeah, he didn't quite reach the heights that we know he can just as a result of not necessarily adapting to the new position. C.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. It's a C there. It was a shame. I think he deserved an opportunity to get a bit more midfield time, but yeah, that's just the problem with such depth in a team that part of me just wasn't able to get that opportunity enough, I don't reckon.
Yeah, Harry Oliver next up. He gets a B+ for me and rated pretty highly across the 3 categories. That kicking efficiency is absolutely outstanding. He showed it in his first game, sliced the game open with what he did off half-back, and his pressure was really good as well, disposed at above 80% for 3 of his 4 games. So that really speaks to his productivity and hurt factor with ball in hand, and quite productive, always good. Even when he didn't have the footy, he did some nice things without it.
Yeah, he was always looking to take the game on, it felt, with every touch he had, and he was so switched on defensively to understand where to fill gaps and move the ball with poise as well at times. He was always switched on and felt like from the start to the end of the champs, he was always a difference maker in little ways, whether that be with or without the ball. So he was an A for me.
Bailey McKenzie I've got as well is next up. I gave him a C. He looked likely enough at times in the 2 games that he played, but he either didn't finish off his work or it didn't quite bounce his way, or he wasn't quite polished enough. He obviously, that first game was quite wet, so a little bit harder for a taller forward like he is, but yeah, just didn't quite set himself apart. I'd
have to agree there. He's a C for me. Maybe would have benefited from one more game in the championships, but just wasn't to be. But again, he's in a pretty talented team at Sandy, so his opportunities will certainly be there in the back end of the year.
Certainly. Christian Moraes gets an A for me. Yeah, really grew into the carnival. His third game was probably his best game. He averaged 8.5 score involvements across the last 2 games. So, yeah, that speaks to a really strong finish. And, just provided a lot of energy in transition on the wing after spending some time forward in the first 2 games, and was really polished in that third game, showed his ability to finish off in front of goal as well. We know that's such a big aspect of his game. And, yeah, copped some big hits throughout the champs as well, and was first class in the way he responded and sort of didn't let that affect him.
Yeah, well, I guess this is where our rankings kind of differ in terms of what we graded them on, because I had him as a B+, but I just wish he got more midfield time. He's so productive. His efficiencies was always there, and he finds a way to get involved still. But I miss that burst from him that he's able to show in the midfield, because he was able to show that out of stoppages sometimes, especially on the outside. It's like you just wish you had a play. When you got Jagger and Ashcraft and Smiley, they all can do that. So it's that's the hard part. A B+ is harsh, but that's just based off my grading. He ends up with a B+ rather than, his potential. He's still an A+ player. So, yeah, not much to be concerned with that champs.
Jaden Yuan gets a C for me. He was clean. He was actually pretty clean at times and was often under a lot of pressure, which really hurt him, and he probably couldn't show his weapons as much as he would have liked, and maybe would have liked to have kicked it a little bit better and get a bit more of the ball at times, but he did play with a lot of heart and ran the games out well. I thought there were a couple of games where he was a bit quieter in the first half and then lifted in the second half, which was good to see, averaging the 14 disposals. His WA game probably his best.
Yeah, well, he's a C for me. I don't know at what point the move to halfback, where you say was that the right decision, because his position on the wing last year I found was so much more effective for his game and to show his kicking capability. He's a lovely kick, but I feel like at halfback his one-on-one it's 50-50 sometimes, and then you've got to apply your off-ball work, and he was definitely there or thereabouts, but I just don't think he was really able to show his skill set as well as it could have been shown. So, yeah, he's an interesting one to watch, Nguyen, at the moment, and see where his footy will take him in the back end, but he's a C for me.
Paddy Rashko, a B- for me. He was quite good in the first game, finished with the 24 disposals, and he gets a B-, probably mostly based on that point of difference being his real work rate and toughness, and also the draftability as a result of, some of his work from the games he's played for the Oakley Chargers. But yeah, maybe wasn't productive enough in the last couple of games. He played 3 games in the champs, and yeah, was never quite polished by foot like I would have liked him to have been on the wing.
Still think his work rate was there as much as it could have been. It's just, I guess making an impact in the games felt a little less than what he's used to at Oakley level. It was a B for me.
Charlie Richardson next up, he gets a C for me. It was a tough first game, and this is where I would have loved him to get an extra game, because a tough first game in wet conditions. He kicked a couple of goals and probably didn't show what he could do, but it was tough conditions, and defenders really panicked when he was around at inside 50. He won some free kicks, and with the way he moved, he is quite dangerous. And then in the second game, his running patterns were pretty good as a running high centre half forward, but he just didn't find a lot of the footy, and then we didn't see him again, but did have the 6 score involvements in game 1. He gets a C.
Yeah, it's a tough one to analyse. He was always there inside 50. Never felt like he was completely taken out of the game. It was just, I guess, his finishing polish just needed to be that little extra bit better, but still, again, similar to, the Sandy boys, he's going back to a talented Oakley team, so the opportunities will be there, but he was a C for me.
Murphy Reed, A+ for me. I remember saying a few weeks ago I was surprised he got so much midfield time in the first game. Not to say he played poorly in the first game, he was really solid, but then, obviously really lifted after that. And, the composure really good, the strength and the ability to release teammates by hand and have that understanding around the stoppage was really strong. Yeah, so to average 25 disposals, a goal when he went forward, he really impacted as well, really clean, and 3 tackles made it an A+ performance.
He was crafty, he had poise with every touch, he was willing to take the game on. He showed those moments of acceleration and ability to change the way the play was going and take things on himself. We saw in the last game he showed that strength that he can have to push off opponents and get the ball moving in transition. It was awesome. It was just a 10 out of 10 really, although he wasn't a perfect score. He was my top player with an A+, and couldn't have asked for more with Murphy Reed. He's just gone from strength to strength this year. Like one of those who's completely taken on every challenge that's come his way this year.
Tom Sims next up. He gets an A- for me. He was quite good in that he had moments at minimum in all 4 games. His middle 2 games were clearly his best. He tore one of the games apart and kicked 3 goals, 3, and that really announced himself. And probably when you look back at the end of the year, you'll say that was the one where he really established himself as a draft prospect if he hadn't already, because he showed he could do it at the next level, being the championships after doing it at talent league level. He sets himself apart with that athleticism when he flies for the footy as well. Would have loved to have finished off with some goals rather than behinds in the last game, but was still a threatening marking threat.
Well, in my rankings, he's an A, and for forwards, it was scoreboard impact, their pressure / their aerial capability if they were small or tall, and point of difference. And obviously, his scoreboard impact was quite poor if you look at it across the 4 games.
4-6.
He had the 3-goal game, and then he only kicked another goal in the other 3 games. So if you look at it, you're saying, well, he wasn't actually that productive, but he was in terms of his marking capacity. He could have had about 8 or 9 goals come the end of the champ. So it was just that polish, because we know he can have those big games. He kicked 7 against Oakley before the champ started. Yeah. So it's definitely there. I think we've seen the crux of a great key forward to be developed still. So, it was all the characteristics you're looking for were there with Sims, and it was an A.
Josh Smiley next up, obviously very draftable. We know that he's going to go very high in the draft, has the point of difference being his size. A little bit, productivity-wise, thought he could have been a little bit better. So, yeah, he gets an A rather than an A+ for me. His best game probably being the WA game, I thought. 22 disposals, 9 clearances he got in that game. And, yeah, I thought that was where he showed what he could do best.
Yeah, it was a really odd champs. It felt underwhelming for his standards, but he wasn't bad. He was still good. And if you don't have Smiley, you notice it. I always feel it felt like him where he could reach another level. I don't know if that's just because he doesn't want to, injure himself, go too hard and leave absolutely nothing in the back end. He's just talented and knows how to get a good output with pretty much every performance, and he's a B+ for me, but it's like he's still the number 1 pick at this point in time. Like, it was nothing to suggest he's not, he's any worse than that. So yeah, he's a B+, but you can't really complain. He still did his job well. Jagger
Smith, I thought his first 2 games were probably his best games. He still finished as an A+ for me, averaging the 29 disposals, maybe a touch quieter in the 3rd game. In the 4th game, he really lifted when the game was on the line. And, yeah, he's so damaging. I thought as the championships went on, he got a bit more damaging with the ball in hand. Obviously, won heaps of clearances as well. He's so quick and elusive. And, when there was some crucial contests to be won, he was always able to emerge with the footy.
When you describe Jagger Smith, it's very... You don't really think he's much of a tough player in terms of just goes in and out of contests and works out, but he's tough. Like, he showed that strength as well. He's unafraid to go in for contested footy as well, and he was so efficient when he had it and was a game winner, literally a game winner in the last game to get that centre clearance, which, eventuated in that winning goal. So he's got all the traits, and he's kept building on his game all year. That hasn't seemed like any complacency with the way his footy's being played. He just keeps, elevating himself to the next level. So an A+.
Yeah, certainly cool under pressure. Gab Stump is next. I gave him a C. He got separation a few times inside 50, but I thought those moments were too fleeting.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. He was a C there. Probably wasn't able to show. I mean, he had a great trial period for Metro, and I just don't think he was able to translate that as well at actual championships level. So, yeah, it was a C for me.
And Luke Traynor, we talked about this off record, but, yeah, he set an enormous bar after the 2 amazing outings for the AFL Academy. He could have got best on in both. And that probably meant that the knee-jerk was he had been a touch underwhelming. But then when you look back through all your notes that you've written, you realise how much of an impact he actually had. Against WA, he set the game up from the back half, gaining 715 metres and kicking at 81% efficiency from his 26 disposals. He played on Tyler Welsh when they played against South Australia, did a really good job on him, had some important moments, obviously kicked the goal in the last game, but had some important moments down back in the last game as well. So he still gets an A+.
Yeah, it was, like you said, it was... when I was doing these rankings, Traynor was quite okay, wasn't he, without being great? And then you look at the notes, you're like, he was an instrumental piece of that team. Yeah. It's just, the Academy game just set such a high bar. And it was his vision on the run, or it was his ability to switch the play. His intercepting capability was always there. It was just a really strong defensive effort through every game. And he's one that feels like he's a staple of every team that he goes to without being, majorly recognised every game. But he was an A for me. He could have been A+, but yeah, just because of that academy game, you all of a sudden just rank him a bit lower than usual, but he was an A.
We move on to the players who just played the one game and the bottom ages, and we start with Keaton Matafai Forbes. So he played the last game, came in as a late inclusion, playing off centre half forward. He took 5 marks and had 4 shots on goal, showed his long boot at times, and just didn't quite finish off. It was probably just where he let himself down. Yeah,
we showed his marking capacity, which he's been able to do at Jets level. It was just the conversion in the end that I thought let him down. He kicks 2 of those 4 shots at goal, and you talking about him as one of the most impactful on the day. So it was a good experience for him. Glad he did get that in the end. I was kind of questioning what role he would play at that level, but he did seem to integrate quite well.
Lucas Tovey was quiet and probably didn't get to show his weapons in the one game that he did play, and then didn't play the last 3 games of the champs.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. There's not a lot to talk about with him, just based off there's no limited amount of game time. And it was odd as well, being a key defender, that you wouldn't play that type. Yeah. So again, and then I guess the bad thing for him now, it's very reliant on that back end at Oakley to show what he's capable of.
Louis Emmett, actually, I thought he was deceptively important when he played in the ruck. He averaged the 18 hitouts, 3 marks and 10 disposals. And he actually did have some eye-grabbing moments as a developing tool.
He felt quite versatile in the ruck. Like, it didn't feel like he was to the point where he wasn't able to run and take himself up the ground. He was certainly there. I guess that Oakley has been playing a deep forward role, but he obviously didn't need to do that at Metro. So he was able to experiment, I guess, in that ruck role and just see what he was capable of. And I thought he matched it quite well at that level.
And then the last one was Archie Ludowick, who was able to pull down some big contested grabs and show that real promise and potential, standing under some high balls and leading up as well.
Yeah, he was terrific, wasn't he? He was able to show his class. I think Harry O'Farrell was the other one we need to touch on quickly. And only played the one game. I'm pretty sure he was injured. He just wasn't able to get a good string of form together, so hard to really assess. There was no negatives in the first game he played. We know what he's capable of from AFL Academy level, but that wraps it up for the Vic Metro video. If you haven't already, there's a Vic Country and Allies version on YouTube as well on our channel, where we've done the exact same thing. Should just add that's Allies in the Coates Talent League, so none of the Northern Academy kids are involved in that video. But thank you all for watching. Make sure to check out our YouTube channel for more content and our social media on Instagram for a lot of fun and interesting content, especially in this back end of the year. There's a lot more to do with the draft edging near and closer and closer. So thank you all for watching. Make sure to check out our socials for more, and we'll see you in another video.